it's Karen and
Pluto!
Here with another movie review on the
Yeah.
official title of the channel. Karen and Pluto's Not Another Review Channel.
Yep, we're professional movie reviewers.
I guess I love super long titles for my channels.
Hey, you have to do long titles because all the short ones are taken.
Yes, they are.
All right, what are we doing?
Anyways, we are doing a horror classic.
Another one.
Friday the 13th. The first one.
Yeah.
The original.
1980.
Yes. Came out
Awesome
in 1980. This is the widescreen collection on Paramount DVD. Movie is obviously rated R.
Oh, well, you never know nowadays.
This is true. 95 minutes long, so good length for a horror movie. So let's start at the beginning.
Camp Crystal Lake, 1958.
So we have some of our counselors sitting around, singing around a fire and everything.
Playing guitar.
Kitties are sleeping.
There's cats there.
Kitties? No, like kids. The kids are asleep in their cabins.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you
Kitties.
meant there were cats.
No, kitties.
Oh, kitties. Oh,
Not-
kitty cat. I know what you mean. Okay, let's go.
So, two of the counselors go off to go have some fun.
Doing some naughty stuff, and you can't do that in these movies.
Yeah, if you've watched Scream, you know the 3 rules.
Well, people might not have seen that, so
Yeah, so I'm not going to say anything. Oh, FYI with this, spoilers!
Obviously. But if you
Yeah.
haven't seen this by now, then what are you doing watching this?
So, our 2 counselor friends go off to have some fun.
I think it's Claudette and Barry, right?
That's what I'm thinking. I don't honestly remember their names. I think at one point after watching this, we were trying to figure it out. Unfortunately, they're interrupted and...
Barry gets stabbed, right?
Well, I'm just saying they're killed.
Yeah, he gets stabbed, and I think Claudette, her name, she
Mhm.
gets killed by a freeze frame.
So, fast forward to present day 1980.
I wish.
But we were laughing when we were watching this because it says about present day, and I'm like, wow, everything looks so retro for it being 2019.
Yeah.
But it's basically 1980. Come up on one of our counselor friends, Annie,
She's cool.
moseying into town, not a care in the world, just excited to be cooking for a bunch of kids. So she meets a dog, has a conversation with the dog, something I would do.
Yeah.
Then she goes into...
She didn't know if it was a boy or girl dog.
Yeah. She says, hey, girl. And she's like, oh, hello, boy.
She's like,
So,
whoa.
you know what? She saw his junk.
Okay.
Anyways, she
I'll own
goes
that.
walking into a little, I guess, coffee shop, I guess it would be.
Little diner.
Yeah, something like that. And the locals are sitting in there doing their own thing. And she comes in and asks, how far is it to Crystal Lake? Of course, everybody just stops dead. And they are all like, oh, they're opening that place again. Da-da-da, didn't they? Going on.
Yeah.
Basically, they're like, because the place has a story, it's cursed or whatever.
It's got a death curse.
Yeah. So there's a truck driver there, and they were like,
He's funny.
was it Enos? Is that his name?
Yep, I think.
How
How far is it,
Enos, and
5
he
miles?
goes at least 20 miles. And she
20?
goes,
Okay. I don't remember.
well, I just was saying because he said he was going 10, so he takes her 10 miles.
I ain't good with numbers.
So anyways, Enos agrees to give Annie a ride the 10 miles, and then she's going to have to figure out how to get the other 10 miles. So as they're walking out, it's Crazy Ralph walks up to him.
You're going to Camp Blood, ain't ya?
Yeah. Basically, Crazy Ralph is basically the town drunk. As they say later in the movie, he drinks, he gets his calling, and he spends a night in jail.
But he was right.
Yes, technically.
Just like Mr. Cooper, he was right.
Yeah, if you haven't watched our Night of the Living Day reviews, go check those out. So anyways, Annie and Enos are going about her way. As he's helping her in the truck, he's got his hands all over her butt, which we always laugh
Hey, if I
about.
had a girl at my spaceship, I would probably do the same thing.
So we just kind of chuckle about that. So anyways, they're going, kind of discussing things like, and he's like, oh my God, I forgot the guy's name. Steve Christie. It took me a minute. He was like, he goes, he's going to be broken crazy like his parents. About the kid drowning in 57, the 2 counselors murdered in 58. what was it, 63 they were going to open, and the water was bad. You know, and
Yep.
and he's telling her to quit, and she's like, I can't quit. And he's like, oh, you dumb teenager. And she's like,
Know-it-alls.
yeah.
Just like
So
my
they're kind of
nieces. Head
cutting it
full
up
of
back and
rocks.
forth. So then we cut away to our next three characters. Nick? No. I can't remember the three
Who
characters.
is Nick?
I don't.
Nick's in part 7.
Oh, okay. Anyways, I'm getting my movies mixed up.
I just call him Kevin Bacon, the prankster, and some other girl.
Yeah.
That's what I call him.
Yeah, I can't remember the oh my god, I'm drawing a total blank.
Jack, Marcy, Ned.
That's why I was thinking N and I was thinking Nick, and it's
I was giving you some time to figure it out.
didn't
But
have
I got
time.
you.
So anyways, they're like three buddies. Jack and Marcy are a couple basically, and Ned's the prankster friend. So they're driving along, talking, to get to Camp Crystal Lake. Well, when they finally pull in, there's Steve Christie trying to get a tree stump out of the ground. And basically, as soon as they get out of the truck, he's like, get over here and get to work. Doesn't even give them a chance to get settled in.
They only have, what, 2 weeks?
Something like that. And then...
they didn't bring a lot of clothes up for 2 weeks.
No. And I think the camp was, like, it was 2 weeks to set up, and then the camp was going after that. So then, in the middle of this comes one of our main female characters that I'm drawing a blank on her name. Help me out, Pluto.
Who is it? Guess.
I always want to call her...
It starts with an A.
Alice.
Wow! Very good!
Guys, after working all week, watching these movies, I don't remember everything come time. So Alice comes out. They're talking about... oh my god, I forgot the other two characters' names. Oh god, I'm so terrible. Help me out, Pluto. Help me out.
Who?
The other male character.
Jack and Marcy?
No, not Jack and Marcy. Not Ned. The other one who say so-and-so's painting the gutters and one setting up the archery range. Bill. And then I can't remember the other girl's name.
Brenda.
Why can't... I know a Bill, I know a Brenda, but I can't remember the names.
B,
yeah.
A, J, M, N. Those are the first letters of their name.
Anyway.
Sorry. Okay, let's go.
Continue on. They're, spread out doing different things, fixing up the camp. Ned's causing issues with Brenda over at the archery range. He almost shoots her with an arrow, and she gets a little annoyed. And then they all gather back up. Steve Christie has to go get some supplies, so he's telling them what to do while they're gone. While he's gone. Yeah, while he's gone.
Okay, I'm just trying to follow you.
Yeah, I'm just kind of trying to bridge some of it.
Yeah, you didn't see it like 6 million times like I did.
Yeah.
I saw it when I was a little bitty monster.
So, Steve leaves. They're still going about the camp, fixing things up, and eventually they go to one point where they're down like by the lake, fixing up a few things there, kind of having some fun. And of course, Ned pulls a prank that he acts like he's drowning because he kind of has I think he kind of has a crush on Brenda. So Brenda finds him, tries to give him mouth to mouth, and
he's
like, and they're all like, "Oh, Nettie, all that."
Can you blame him, really?
I guess not. But in the middle of while they're swimming, they kind of Brenda suspects they're being watched, which they do a cutaway from the POV of somebody who is watching. So they go back.
Where are we at?
I was trying to remember.
What part of the movie we at?
Okay. After they're done at the lake, cut away to Alice in her cabin. She's kind of getting cleaned up after swimming.
She's like fixing the gutters, right?
No, I skipped that whole part.
Oh, okay. Never mind, not important. Watch the movie if you know what.
Yeah, no, I was trying to abbreviate some of it. Because it's like they're fixing up the camp. Steve, I think, has a thing for her, Alice, and I think Bill has a thing for Alice. But anyways.
Oh, hey, can you blame him, really, like I said?
So anyways, we go after the swimming. Alice is in her cabin, kind of getting cleaned up. And there's a big black snake. So naturally, she freaks out like I would.
Oh, did you skip the part where Annie gets her demise? Or we didn't get
that far yet.
Oh, I didn't know we're doing little by little. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So spoiler.
Yeah, forget I said that. Okay, go.
So now you got me saying Annie. Alice is in her cabin, finds a snake, freaks out, goes to her door, starts yelling for Bill. So Bill comes running. He has a machete because he was out there cutting down some weeds or something. And he was like, "What's wrong?" And then Brenda and Jack and Marcy and does Nick? I think Nick comes running in as well.
Nick.
Ned.
Oh, I thought you said Nick
No.
again.
And she's like, "There's a snake," and the snake disappeared. Well, then they eventually find it, and they're looking under the bed, and there's the snake. And Alice is just like, "Kill it!"
And they do.
Well, after it's funny because Bill's like, "I can't reach it," and she's like, "Well, call it." And he goes, "How do you call a snake?"
You go.
So then Jack jumps on the bed to get it out. It comes out. It's like total chaos at this point. They're having like pillow fight. The snake comes out. Bill hacks it with the machete.
Sad.
So our next victim was the little black snake. Well, it wasn't really little. So after all that with the snake, they're back around the main cabin, main hall. I don't know what you want to call it.
Oh.
Well, it's like the counselor cabin, like the social cabin, whatever you want to call it. And I think they're making food and talking about other stuff like that. And they're saying, "Oh, hoping Annie was getting there," and disappointed she wasn't there yet because they said she was supposed to be a really good cook and everything. So they're doing their thing there. And then I'm trying to remember, somewhere in here, we get back to Annie being dropped off and she's on her way. And then later, as Annie's walking, she's picked up by a Jeep. Guess who else drives a Jeep in this movie? Steve.
Is he the killer?
I don't know. I guess we'll have to keep talking to find out. So she's kind of rambling on, and you don't see who picked her up. It's from their point of view the whole time. Well, she eventually goes by the person drives by Camp Crystal Lake, the road, and Annie says something, and the person keeps driving. So Annie goes and throws herself out of the Jeep. Ends up hurting her leg on the way out. The Jeep starts chasing her. So she's running in the woods with this wounded leg, leans up against a tree. Now Annie's gone. So eventually we get back to our other counselors who are...
Sorry, I was doing what she probably did.
We get back to our other counselors who are... Ned's dancing like an Indian outside the one cabin, and the police show up. One of the sheriffs from town shows up on a bike. And actually the sheriff is a real jerk. Because he was just being real smart aleck with them, and
cool.
Yeah, basically, right. He has very authoritative attitude and overload. So basically, what it comes down to is he's out there looking for Crazy Ralph, because they said he was crazy people around here. Because he was seen pedaling out towards the camp, and they're like, "Well, we haven't seen anybody. Should we be alarmed?" And they're like, "No." Well, then Mr. Sheriff gets called back into town, so he leaves. Cut back to Annie going to put some pots away. Not Annie, Alice. I do this all the time. Alice trying to put some pots away in the one cupboard and opens the door, and guess who's there? Crazy Ralph.
Yep. What was she doing in there?
I don't know. But he comes out spouting his, "You're all doomed, going on. It's not, you don't want to stay here." And
it is true.
And all that. So they basically eventually he gets out of there, and Annie kind of follows him, and Ralph spouts off a little bit more before he gets on his bike and rolls out. So, I'm trying to think here which way it goes. I think after this, it goes to Jack and Marcy kind of walking and talking about some stuff, as she's talking about a bad dream she has and everything and all that. Ned's off doing something goofy, balancing on logs and everything. So he's off.
Somebody.
And then he sees one of the cabin doors kind of creak closed, and he's like, "Hello, hello," and he goes, check it out. By himself. Not a good thing.
I wouldn't. Would you?
Nope. So then it cuts back to Marcy and Jack, and they eventually go to their cabin and have a little fun.
What do they do?
It's naughty time.
Oh, I get you.
And in the meantime, with all this, they cut away, and Ned is dead on the top bunk above them. He had his neck slashed. Just laying there. The thing is, I feel bad for Ned in this movie. I'm just doing this as a sidebar. Is like later on, like they're asking where certain people are at. Ned's name doesn't even come up.
They're like, yeah, who cares?
It's like they're asking about everybody else, but Ned does not matter.
Nope.
So,
nope.
Jack and Marcy finish up what they're doing. So Marcy leaves the cabin to go get cleaned up, and Jack kind of lays back in the bed and starts to get ready to light up a joint.
That's bad too, right?
Mm-hmm. Like I said, if you see him scream, you know the 3 roles.
No. Alice does that too later. But okay, moving on.
Anyways, as Jack's leaning back, getting ready to enjoy his nice little doobie going on, an arrow comes up through his neck and he starts spewing blood everywhere. Which is actually kind of interesting to hear how they did that scene. So,
that's one of my favorite Friday the 13th.
Now Jack is gone.
Yep.
So we cut away to Marcy in the bathroom area, shower area as well.
The camp toilet.
Pretty much. She's the one that does in the style where it's about the 40 feet to the outhouse by Will He Make It.
Oh, I thought it was Willie.
Will he make it?
Get it? I don't know.
Yeah, it took me so many times to get that.
I got that the first time.
I was just like oblivious. So she's, going potty and goes to clean up.
That was funny. You go potty.
She's going potty.
Yeah. Okay.
So she's trying to clean up and everything, and then she hears a noise like somebody's there. She investigates, and it's basically like, oh, I must be hearing things. And she turns around, and there's somebody wielding an axe. They kind of cut away because they show it hitting the light and coming down, but then they don't show you going into Marcy's head. But
right in her face.
Marcy's gone now. So we cut back to like the social cabin or whatever you want to call it. And there's Alice, Bill, and Brenda hanging out, and they decide to play Monopoly. But they play it differently. They play strip Monopoly. So basically,
I'd lose probably.
you lose before you start, hon.
Yep.
So instead of playing with money, you claim clothes off your opponents. So funny thing in this scene is when Brenda rolls, she says she gets double sixes. We actually paused the video. I don't remember what she rolled, but it's not the double sixes.
The wonders of high def.
Yeah. So back in the 80s, you wouldn't have noticed, but now that everything's kind of restored, updated, you can catch a lot of that stuff now.
That's funny.
So they kind of keep continuing to play. Alice at one point says she didn't know where Marcy and Jack were, and they were probably drenched. Like I said, poor Ned. Poor Ned. I feel so bad for Ned.
What are you going to do? Maybe they really didn't like him in the first place.
I don't know.
Maybe they just brought him along so he could get in trouble for everything, and they don't.
Who knows? So they keep playing Monopoly. Right when Alice is about to take her shirt off, is it the door that blows open? Or
boo on the door for blowing open right at that point.
Alice is the main hero, in case you haven't guessed, because that's one thing with a lot of these horror movies is like the one female that's the hero usually doesn't show anything on screen.
Well, I'm sure they've probably seen the movie.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm just saying, just kind of funny. So everything starts blowing over, and Brenda's like, oh, I think I left the window at my cabin open. So she kind of grabs what she took off of her clothes. I think she's down in her bra and panties, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So she kind of grabs her clothes, grabs the raincoat, and is like, we'll have to finish this later. And she goes back to her cabin. So Bill and Alice kind of just hang out. And that's about it.
Cut. Then they go to
Brenda.
Oh, I thought they show Steve with the.
Oh yeah, Steve ends up he's at a diner. I totally forgot about Steve. I'm saying about Ned, and I'm forgetting Steve.
Yeah, he's taking a break from his slashings, right?
We'll see. So Steve's hanging out at some diner.
Yeah, it's just called Diner.
Yeah, literally. And apparently it was a diner in that area, and I guess the people filmed actually were employees there.
It's easy to remember the name if you just call it Diner.
Yeah. So he's kind of has gotten something to eat, got some coffee. He's going to play his bill, and I can't remember.
His bill?
Pay his bill.
It sounded like you said his bill.
Yeah.
Well, we'll watch it and see if that's what you said. Maybe I still got fur in my ears. Okay, moving on.
So the waitress, I want to say her name's Doris for some reason, but I don't remember.
She looks like a Doris.
Yeah. Older woman, typical waitress of that time.
She probably has been there since she was like 18.
Probably,
she's
a
like,
lifer.
What, 70?
And she was saying like, oh, well, you can't go out there. It's pouring down rain. He goes, I have to. I have 6 new counselors back at camp, and they're babes in the woods in the literal sense. And so Steve leaves the diner. Then we go back to Alice and Bill. Or no, we go to Brenda next.
Yeah.
Brenda. We go back to Brenda. See, I totally forgot about Steve, and now I'm forgetting where we go after Steve.
Did she ever get her window closed?
So I don't think they ever show her getting her window closed.
No, I want to know that.
They show the next time they show her, she's in the same bathroom shower place that Marcy was in. So she gets water running, gets herself all like cleaned up and ready for bed. Goes back to her cabin. Getting her, like I said, getting herself ready, gets her like heavy duty nightgown on, lights a candle, turns out her lights, and goes to bed and tries to read. All of a sudden,
good time to read.
Even though it's pouring down rain, you hear this little voice going, "Help me!" And Brenda's kind of looking around like, what? Like she's probably thinking she's hearing things.
Oh, that's normal.
But then the voice comes again, saying, "Help me." So she gets up, she grabs a flashlight, because I know she has a flashlight with her later. And she goes out in the pouring rain looking.
Oh, yeah. I would, too.
And she's like yelling, "Hello, where are you?" And the voice starts going, "Over here, help me, please, hurry." So she starts running, and Brenda's yelling, "Hello," like she's still yelling. Well, she eventually gets over by the archery range. Why are you shaking your head?
Because I would not do that. A strange voice yelling in the middle of the night at a strange, creepy camp that you just went to that day, and you hear that, I'd be like,
you'd be like, "Peace out, Cub Scout."
I'd open the door and say, "Nope, nobody here. Good night," and then shut the door.
Anyway, she eventually ends up by the archery range.
Again.
And all of a sudden, the lights at the range come on. And she's blinded, and she's like, "Who's there?" Da, da, da. And then it
ain't Ned.
It cuts away to Alice back at the cabin, and she hears a scream.
Ah!
And she's looking. Well, Bill comes walking back in saying the generator's fine. And Alice says, "Well, the lights were on at the archery range." And Bill looks and goes, "No, they're not." And she goes, "Oh, they're out now."
Fall.
What's that?
You're making me fall.
Sorry. And then she says about she thought she heard a scream. She thought she heard a scream, and it sounded like Brenda. So Bill goes, "Okay, let me go investigate." And Alice is like, "I'm going with you." So they start checking, looking for everyone. I think actually at one point they do yell Ned's name when they're looking. Now that they think about it.
Eddie, I think.
But other than that, they don't care about Ned. So they're looking, and don't they find the axe in one of the bed? Yeah, and they're like, "What's going on here?" So they go to Jack's truck and try to get it started, and it won't start because it's raining so hard. So I don't know if it's just so waterlogged it won't start or whatnot, but the truck won't start. So then they go to the office, break into the office because it's locked, to try to use either the payphone or in the office phone, but the phone line's been cut.
Yeah, but wouldn't you be able to make an emergency call without paying if the line
Probably.
did work?
No, if the line did work, yeah.
Yeah, if the line did work.
Yeah, because they do make a comment about having a quarter or something.
A dime or something.
Like, yeah, on a payphone.
You need
that tells you how dated this movie is.
Payphone.
What's a payphone?
I sort of remember them.
Mm.
Never used them, but
So they say about trucking it out of here, Aaron, and that our Bill's like, it's 10 miles to the closest road. We're going to get drenched. She goes, Steve will be back soon.
drenched is better than dead.
And we'll eventually, we'll get into town that way. So they go back to the main cabin. And then we cut back to Steve, who is stranded on the side of the road. Because of the weather, the roads are wet. He's hauling a big, he has his Jeep, but he also has
hauling a trailer.
That's what I'm like, yeah,
That's what he says.
And it's weighing him down. So the police officers coming through. And the officer gives him a ride so far, and they were just chatting. And he goes, I'll have one of my counselors bring me back in the morning to get it. It'll be fine. So as they're going, they were talking about weren't they talking about being Friday the 13th, a full moon, and all this fun
all
stuff?
The crazy people.
So as they're going, the officer gets a call. He has to report to an accident scene. So he apologizes, drops Steve off, not too far from the camp.
But far enough.
Far enough. And the officer takes off. And by this time, it does slow up raining, or it stopped raining. I can't remember.
Stopped, I think.
So Steve comes walking, and all of a sudden, there's a flashlight on him. And he's like, oh, hi, who are you? And then all of a sudden, you hear him go, bye-bye, Steve. So I guess Steve isn't our killer. So it cuts back. Alice by herself?
Yeah, we get a whole scene of her making tea or something.
She was sleeping, and Bill went out to check the generator went out, so he goes to check it. Alice dozes back off.
Yep.
I apologize, guys. My throat's getting dry. So she wakes up going, Bill! And she looks at the lantern. She's like, oh, generator. So then we get this whole, 5-minute scene of her making coffee.
Maybe not that long, but it seems like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a pointless scene to an extent. But then as she's sitting there, she's like, okay, he hasn't come back. What's going on? So she goes down, tries to find Bill where the generator is. So she gets there, finds his rain slicker on the floor, doesn't find him. The door closes, and there's Bill attached to the door by a bunch of arrows. So naturally, Alice freaks out.
Who put him on there?
I guess it wasn't Steve. So she goes running back to where she was at and tries to barricade herself in, trying to hide. And in the middle of all this, Brenda gets thrown through one of the windows. Which I think it has to happen. Somebody has to get thrown out a window in every Friday the 13th movie, as far as I'm concerned.
Everyone?
I think. I'm probably thinking it doesn't happen in everyone, but it seems like it. So, as Alice is kind of hiding, hoping somebody comes,
she's hiding.
There's headlights from a Jeep. So she thinks, oh, great, Steve's back.
Oh, Steve!
So she starts unbarricading herself to run outside. She gets outside, and this woman comes walking up.
Who are you?
And she's like, who are you? Well, I'm Mrs. Voorhees. I'm an old friend of the Christies.
Okay.
So Alice goes and is like freaking out, like we got fire whistles going in the background.
Something's going on.
Something's going around here on here. Maybe Jason's hanging out here.
Jason? Who's Jason?
Jason.
Who's that?
We'll find out.
Okay.
So Mrs. Voorhees goes in and she's like, I'm not afraid. Nobody will hurt me.
Gee, she's not very suspicious now, is she?
Was that your extreme close-up? So Mrs. Voorhees starts saying about all this stuff, like about Brenda being so young, so beautiful, so this. Oh, why did Steve open this can? And she's going on, and then she said about how the boy drowned in 1967 because what? Oh, were you shaking? Why is this?
I'm listening.
I thought you were
67. Yeah,
57. Sorry,
50. Yeah, 67.
And she said she was a cook. She worked there, and she was saying about it. You know, the counselors weren't watching. They weren't paying attention to him. They were off making love while he drowned because Jason wasn't a very good swimmer.
I know. See, Alice should have went like this. Like, you're Mrs. Voorhees. She should have went. Okay, I'm
And then
listening.
she keeps going on like about Jason, her only child, and today is his birthday.
I'd have been gone.
And then she kind of flips the switch and starts grabbing a machete out. She's like, "You didn't watch him. You let him drown." And she starts going after Alice. So basically, her and Alice tangle, chase each other through the camp.
Do, 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 do.
Alice had ample time a few times to kind of take her out.
Yeah, she's
Well,
not
in the
a
middle,
very good.
in the middle of running about the
whatever
camp,
fighter.
she kind of finds Annie's body in the Jeep.
Yeah, that was weird. Why was Annie in the Jeep? Did Mrs. Voorhees, like, take her everywhere she went?
Apparently.
Drove around. Nobody noticed that in
And
the
then
Jeep?
Steve comes falling out of a tree, hanging
I
upside
want to
down.
see the alternate cut where Mrs. Voorhees puts him in the tree. How'd she do that, you think?
Yeah, so it's like, how did she do all this in a short amount of time?
And put Bill on the door.
Yeah, and Brenda through the window.
Yeah, she threw her pretty good. And stuck Nettie up in the top bunk.
Mm-hmm. We don't know what happened to Marcy's body.
Yeah, she's probably still in the toilet or shower.
So it just goes on with Annie and Mrs. Voorhees wrestling off and on. And then Annie eventually gets her knocked out. So Annie goes down by the lake on the beach. And she's kind of sitting there. And all of a sudden, Mrs. Voorhees shows up again. So they're tangling, girl fighting on the sand, basically. But Mrs. Voorhees, like, kicks ass. You know, for her being an older lady, Betsy Palmer.
Yeah, Alice is maybe, what, 17, 18?
Mm-hmm.
And Mrs. Voorhees is like 60?
Yeah. So they're fighting back and forth and all that. And then it gets to the point, Mrs. Voorhees is down, dropped the machete. Alice picks up the machete, pulls it back, and cuts off Mrs. Voorhees' head. And then you see the hands coming up like, and those are Tom Savini's hands, which is
No, it
interesting.
isn't. It's his friend.
Oh, his friend. But you can, if you look close enough, you can tell they're male hands.
It's like,
yeah. So then Alice goes in the boat, gets in the boat, kind of goes and hangs on the lake, you know, overnight.
yeah, that's what I would do. After all that, let's go out in the boat.
Yeah. So she's on the boat. The next morning, the officers show up at the camp and they're trying to get her attention because she's like totally like out of it, playing in the water.
He's like, hey!
They're like, hey!
Hey,
and she's
you
just kinda,
stupid woman!
And then she's just kind of
Hey!
looking, and all of a sudden, a child Jason jumps up out of the water, grabs her, and pulls her under. And then she wakes up from a dream in the hospital.
Yep.
And they're saying she was asking if all her friends were dead, and they're like, yeah, and we thought you were dead too. And she asks about the boy, and they're like, lady, there was no boy. And then she's like, that he's still out there.
He's still there.
There. And then it goes back to the lake, and there's this nice calming music, and that's it.
Roll credits.
Pretty much. So I have to say,
you didn't like this.
No. I mean, initially, like, I wasn't a big, like I said, if you watch one of my other movie video reviews, whatever, I wasn't a big horror fan until about 18, 19 years ago.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So I've seen bits and pieces of some of the Friday the 13th because my brother was a fan. But
they're good.
I can remember watching Scream and then saying about who's the killer in the first Friday the 13th.
Didn't like those.
And it was before I saw this originally, and they were saying about Jason Voorhees, and like it was his mother. And I remember my brother and I looking at each other like, what?
Even he didn't know.
No, he didn't know. He hadn't seen the first one when we were watching Scream. So I was once I did watch it, I was kind of curious to see. So it was kind of comical. I learned something before I even saw the movie.
See?
So, like I said, sex, drugs, gore.
It's not gory.
Yeah, there's some blood. Compared to some of the later ones, this one is probably pretty mild.
The later ones are mild too. They got edited down by those idiots that edit movies that they made them cut the movies down. I don't like that. Just show it.
So, like I said, if you haven't watched it, check it out.
My favorite Sylvester series.
Yeah. And this is one I do sometimes get them confused later on.
I never get them confused.
I get confused
know
certain
my
characters
Friday
or
the
which kills
13th.
were in which.
Not me.
Because you're a diehard.
Die Hard. We're going to do that one next.
No. I said you're a diehard as in a diehard fan.
I thought you meant, right.
So, okay, guys, that is it for this review. I was trying to cut it shorter, but I don't
What are
think
we doing? It's like an hour?
Not quite, but I got
Jeez.
to edit some stuff out of here.
Yeah, because I had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
What are those 3 CISOs for anyhow? I keep wanting to ask you that.
You're funny.
Okay.
So
is that it?
that is it for this review. Like I said, check it out. If you haven't seen it, if you have seen it, watch it again. Like
Leave
I
some
said.
comments.
Yeah. Like I said, we're eventually going to come to some movies that we don't like. I promise.
Yep, that'll be probably our next one.
Yeah.
Ugh.
That was a rough one to get through.
Yep.
So please remember, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you know when I post new content. Help share my page if you would. If not, hey, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
So,
But we know you will.
Yeah.
Because I have such a cute face.
But like I said, that's going to be it. Oh, I smacked the table.
Earthquake!
Yeah, we're trying to film in the living room this time, guys. We're hoping it's a little more comfortable, and not in the fact I'm not hitting the table.
Well, we want to look different.
So, yeah, we're trying it out. So you never know where we're going to be filming.
We may
But that's
film outside in the car.
There we go. That's it. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Goodbye.